Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke. But I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
Good morning. I'm here with Dr. Brooke Soto. I happened to find Dr. Soto on the internet and reached out to her, and we had I think a great conversation about how and why she's involved with Mindsight. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you prefer Brooke or Dr. Soto?
Oh, you can just call me Brooke, yes.
I love that name, Brooke. I have a niece, Brooke.
Oh, I love it.
Brooke, can you talk about your background leading up to having... Oop, did she just get disconnected?
No, that's the school calling me. I'm sorry.
All right. Sorry, Brian. Got an interruption.
I apologize. My daughter's home from school today, so there you go.
Brian's got a sick kid home from school.
Uh-oh.
So, can you please talk about your background, whatever you want to say regarding leading up to how you became involved in the telepathy tapes?
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Joanne, for having me.
You're welcome.
As she said, I am Dr. Brooke Soto. I'm a doctor of natural medicine, and I founded Quanta Bliss. And basically, my work centers around mindsight, intuitive development, human potential. I help guide adults and children to develop this ability to see without the physical eyes. So you just asked about telepathy. So interesting enough, my oldest son is a non-speaker. He has been diagnosed with severe autism since the age of 2. He does not speak any words, and he's extremely telepathic. And, you know, as a mother, I knew that we had this intuitive connection, that I had never put a real label on it, like, oh, we're telepathic. I just thought, it's my motherly intuition, especially as my son was a non-speaker. I think I just naturally, was able to read his energy, his wants, his needs without the verbal communication. But the telepathy tapes, I actually watched that podcast I guess it's been, 2 years now. It's crazy. Time is flying. And so when I saw that, even being a doctor in quantum medicine, it even opened my eyes to so much more that was happening for my son. And at that point in time, he was not a speller, and now he is. After I saw the tapes, and I had always wanted to get him into, they call it spelling to communicate, is one of the methods that people use for the nonverbal, non-speaker children to find a way to communicate. And that was something I always wanted him to do, but I just was not 100% sure how competent he actually was. So it's so interesting because, like I said, he's a non-speaker, and I always knew that he had 100% receptive language. I knew he was intelligent. I knew, anything I would say, he understood. He could even follow our commands. But without having that verbal, feedback, I just wasn't sure. He had never had any academic training at all. He had only done traditional ABA therapy, which is generally recommended for, the autism community. So back to the telepathy tapes, I watched the podcast, listened to it, and it just blew my mind with how actually competent the non-speakers were. And at that point, everything shifted for me as his mother. And I went right in. I actually started teaching him how to type myself. I had not, at this point, I'd had no training in how to do spelling to communicate or typing or any of that. But I was a mom on a mission. And I knew that my son was so competent. I just presumed 100% competence. And that's when we really realized how telepathic he was. Because what happened was I was starting to teach him how to spell, how to type. We were typing on a keyboard. And, again, I didn't know, I wasn't quite sure how much he could actually spell. So I was trying to say the letters. And then I quickly realized that I didn't have to say the letters. He was hearing them inside my head. I could just sit there and I could do anything. I could just basically say a sentence in my head and he could type it. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had my husband, see it, and my husband would write out a sentence. Nobody would see it. I didn't even hand it to me. I would look at it, but Robbie, my son, would not see it, and he would type out the whole sentence. And that's when we were just like, oh my gosh, So that was a huge shift on my journey, even with conscious medicine and all of that. But yeah, that is Robbie's story in a nutshell, I guess you'd say.
So when you knew he was telepathic, before the telepathy types, before the actual exercises, what was that like?
Well, for me, that was just, like I said, it was to me, motherly intuition. Like I said, I'd never put that label, which this is actually very interesting. We can get farther into this, and I'm sure we will as we talk more into Mindsight. But telepathy, it's kind of a term that's limiting. I mean, let's be real, all words are limiting, right? But telepathy is the term that is reading someone's mind. Okay. Well, when I've actually asked my son, I've said, Robbie, are you reading my mind? Are you feeling the vibrations of my heart? He typed feeling the vibrations of your heart. Right. So it's so much deeper than mind reading. These kids are so tapped into energy and frequency. Right. And not just kids, anyone, anyone, I would say anyone neurotypical or but that's not neurodivergent, excuse me.
I knew what you meant.
Yes. They are just on a higher frequency. Yeah. And so they have often a lot of these innate abilities, which we'll be talking about, of course, Mindsight. They have these abilities that are more forward. They're just present. I mean, of course, we know there's many non-speakers that have what we call savant skills. They have these exceptional abilities to, whether it's to do academic things or, musical things, just all these different things. So yeah, I don't know if I answered that question, but I started getting.
You did, but me being me, I'm just curious if it was as simple as, and I'm just spitballing here, if before you fine-tuned it, would you just in your head ask him if he was hungry and get a response, that sort of thing? Just the simple basics of how you did that exchange.
Before we did spelling, I would ask verbally. I always would say, hey, Robbie, would you like this? And he never would speak, but it was like I just knew. I knew.
All right, so you knew. Okay, so there was.
Honestly, I would describe it as intuitive perception.
Got it. And you've clarified that twice, but I was missing that. Got it. So you basically took intuition.
Yes.
And gave the intuition wings.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I love the spelling because it does give him, I say, another way to communicate with more people. obviously he and I are very connected. For example, when I'm with him all day, as his mother, I pretty much know at all times what he's needing and wanting. But when he has someone else caring for him, maybe a sitter or someone, it gives him a new way to, for them to have more communication. So it is great.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So what, and I'm just curious, you didn't tell me when we talked on the phone, and it's not, just give a little background and how you're from Tennessee. You now find yourself in Arizona.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the background, or would you prefer not?
About how I got into just quantum medicine, or
there's that. You could, yeah, sure, like it.
Because I would say Robbie, I always say Robbie's my oldest son, and my nonverbal autistic son.
And what's the name of your business? Quantum what?
Quanta Bliss.
Quantum Bliss? Quanta.
like Quanta, not quantum, but Quanta.
Got it.
Like the very smallest particle, bliss. Yeah.
Got it.
So Robbie, when he was young, he definitely experienced a lot of physical issues from, I'm just going to say it, childhood vaccinations. And I went on a journey, because what happened was I had a baby and he was perfectly healthy and normal. And within the first 18 months of his life, after he received 36 of the childhood vaccinations, I continued to see him regress and have all of these side effects that were often dismissed by the pediatrics. And as a mother, again, intuition, I knew something was not right. And to make what could be a very long story, a whole new podcast, to make it shorter, Robbie regressed into this state where he was absolutely not responding to us anymore. He did not respond to his name. He was banging his head, flapping his arms, doing all the typical things that they say are signs of autism. Had no language, none. And he did have language at one point. He had up to 50 words at a point, and then he lost it all. So there were all these things that were happening. And as a mom, and this was back in 2013 when he was born.
I was going to ask you how old he was.
Yeah. So right now he's 12. He'll be 13 this year. He's kind of, I would say, in the middle of the spike of the children that we have seen more higher diagnosis of autism. I'd say he's kind of toward the front of it to the middle of it, because there are older kids. We do have lots of friends, that are in their 20s and 30s. But anyways, so back then, though, what I'm trying to tell you is there was not a lot of information. There was not a lot of support. There was not a lot of understanding about what was happening, and of course I kept getting dismissed by doctors. So that is what set me on a journey toward natural medicine. Okay. I found a functional doctor for my son because I knew that there was more to the story. I knew something had happened intuitively. I had no doubts of what I had witnessed, right? And so, yes, sure enough, Robbie has been through lots of integrative medicine through his time. He's done lots of therapies. We've done tons of detoxing. And then that led me into, homeopathy, herbal medicines, and all of that stuff, which eventually led me to study natural medicine myself, right?
Gotcha.
Because just in general, I do believe that natural medicine it's where it's at, if you ask me. I think Western medicine has its place, mostly with acute care and emergency care. And I think anything that's like a chronic illness or just, all these emotional things that we deal with could all be handled so much better if we would really focus on the whole person and not the physical body, because that's the biggest difference. So what I do is conscious medicine. I believe that, we have multiple layers to our consciousness. We're not just this physical body, which is what what Western medicine mostly focuses on to help people try to, get better. They give them, for instance, a pharmaceutical that's just typically going to affect the physical body, right? And so then you have all these layers to your consciousness that are never thought of, that are never looked at. And I guess we could easily say this is what led me toward, the psi abilities, and as such as Mindsight, and just telepathy and all these abilities that we have. Because when I was really studying about the layers to our consciousness, the top layer is your bliss body. Okay. And this is where you're connected to your highest consciousness. This is the spirit level. And truly, if someone wants to completely heal, I'm sure you've heard the term quantum leap, things like that. That's where you tap into that very top bliss level. And that is what really got me so interested in, the energy medicine and these innate human abilities that we have, because I knew that if you can turn on these abilities, you're going to be tapping into that layer of you that is all powerful, all knowing, and all healing, right?
Yep.
So that's basically that part of my story.
So how old were you when you got your degree and got this rolling?
Oh gosh, well, you're gonna make me tell my age here? I do not care. No, I'm 44. I graduated. I think I was 42 when I graduated.
Gotcha.
Yep.
What had you studied prior?
Well, my first degree in college is in health and human performance.
All right, so there was the foundation.
Coincidental, yeah.
Yep.
I've always been into the health. I've always cared about wellness and health and human performance, human abilities. So it was always there. Yeah, it just evolved, I would say.
And Robbie, how long has he been spelling?
1 year.
Wow.
A little bit over a year. It's actually just been a year. And so in spelling, there's something that we call open communication. And open communication is where an individual can just freely type on their own and like spell. We are not quite there yet. He does do it sometimes. He'll give me short, like a word or short phrases. But this sometimes can take years for an individual to get to this level. So where we are, we're still in mostly the choice phase. So when I talk to him, I will give him a choice and he will always respond with the answer.
Okay. All right. And then, so does Robbie practice Mindsight too, or is it just your other son?
Robbie has not practiced Mindsight, and the main reason is because I just haven't done it with him.
Okay.
I will tell you, though, all the kids that I know that are non-speakers that have tried it, they do it immediately. But here's the thing, because Robbie's not really open communicating yet, it would be hard for me to be like, oh, he can, like, validation, I guess you would say.
Okay.
But I would know clearly and another reason, honestly, two reasons that I have not done it with him. One, I know he can do it, and I kind of think it's silly to even go there because he's so tapped in. This could be a whole nother again, podcasts, but I know Robbie can see spirits. There has been many things through our life where it has just shown me that. So I know he's tapped into these other,
Dimensions.
abilities. Yeah. So he's just so much farther up there that it seems silly. It's like Mindsight, really. He's probably sitting there teleporting to another dimension right now, and I'm over here trying to see with a blindfold. He's like, really? That's cool, Mom. Keep going. So that part just, it never seemed appropriate, but I have talked to him about it because he knows I would love to get him to demonstrate it because I know we can do it. So that is something I want to do. I just have not done it yet. But no, if you want to start talking about Mindsight mostly starts with my second son.
Right. And why don't you go there? I know you said he had seen something on Gaia, correct?
Yes. So my second born son, when at the time he was 7 years old, and he was really into the Star Wars, and he kept telling me he wanted to be a Jedi when he grows up. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. That's so cute, honey. And then I was like, wait, maybe this is real, actually. And we saw the Superhuman documentary. Well, I saw it first and I was like, oh my gosh. And that's where I saw all these kids doing Mindsight, which is the ability to see without the physical eyes. They were wearing their mask and they were playing sports and they were reading books and, just doing anything that normal kids would be doing without a blindfold. They could do it with the blindfold. And I showed my son and he was just mesmerized. He just couldn't believe it. He was so excited. He's like, Mom, I have to do this. And I'm like, okay. I was like, sure, let me find a teacher. So I went on a journey to try to find a Mindsight teacher, for my son. And we're in the United States, and I'm looking and I'm like coming up with nothing. I'm like, gosh, I find like there's like a couple little maybe sort of like that, but it's like so far away from where we were living at the time. And I'm like, there was just nothing. I kept coming up with nothing. Well, in that Superhuman documentary, they spotlight Nicola Farmer in the ICU Academy. And Nicola is truly a pioneer in Mindsight for children. She's developed this very amazing ICU Academy for children.
What does that stand for?
Inspiring Children Universally. Yeah. But it's kind of like, I guess, an oxymoron because I see you, if you think, yeah. So I reached out to her because she has a certification program for teachers to qualify teachers to do this. She calls it blindfold therapy for children. So I did take the course and became a qualified teacher. My son, Mark, was my first student. And within 1 week, he was seeing, he was reading, he was riding his bike, he was swinging, he was playing, he was running, he was doing everything just like the kids in the documentary. And that was in 23. Since then, I've probably taught about 10 other children, and all of them have done it. They can all do it. It's incredible. And yeah, so that would have been, that's the beginning, of the Mindsight journey.
Gotcha. How old is Robbie? How old is Mark?
Now Mark is 9. So he's almost 10. When he first started training, when I first taught him, he was 7 years old, which the ideal age, I guess you say, for children to learn is about 5 to 6 to about 12. And that is because the analytical mind, the left brain, has not really stepped up yet. That ego mind is at bay. It's pretty dormant. And so the kids are so receptive, creative. They're very right brained. And so they just naturally do it. And also, I believe they're just so still connected so much to that highest frequency, that consciousness. And so they just tap right into it. I mean, truly, my experience has been the younger they are, the quicker they do it. Now, this is not recommended guidelines, and I would never like try to train a little bitty like baby or anything, but my 2-year-old can do it. And I'm not training her, but she's seen all of us do it. So she just wants to play. It's just play for her. She puts on the mask and she runs around and does everything. Of course, she'll flip the mask up, then she'll put it back because that's a 2-year-old. They're not going to, leave something on them all the time. But it's amazing. I couldn't believe it the first time she did. I was like, she can do it. I told my husband, I knew she could do it because I just know how connected the babies are, the little. So we come out, obviously, we're very connected to spirit. And then as our ego, our analytical side develops, and then we get our cultural conditioning and all the society stuff. And by the time we get into our teens, we're like, this whole new person, because we weren't left free, like to be a free will. We've been, pushed to certain ways and certain beliefs and certain conditions. So when my baby is nobody's telling her anything, and she's just like, oh, okay, I'll play. She just connected. She does it. And then my second, he's my third. I have 4 kids. So my third born is, at the time when he learned, he was 5, and he is the quickest child that I have ever, quote, trained. I didn't train him. He put the mask on, and we have this activation process that we guide. I do an activation process with adults, and I do a little bit different with children, but I didn't have to do anything. It was like seconds. He had it on and he's like, hi, Mom. I'm like, oh, you see me? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like doing stuff like, how many fingers? He's like, 2. I'm like, oh, what color is that? He's like, blue. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, it was immediate. And so that was just such an incredible moment, and just gave me even more like validation. Wow, these little kids, they're just so connected.
Yeah. Believe it or not, this is a great stopping point because we're through episode 1 already. I just want you to reiterate, you have a 12, a 9, a 5, and a 2-year-old. The first 3 are boys, 2-year-olds a girl.
Yes.
Gotcha.
That is right. That is correct.
All right, because I just, if I want to refer back, I appreciate that. All right, we'll stop now. We'll go into 2.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. Jai Ma.